Donald Trump has spent nearly 2 full weeks outside of Washington since the shutdown began, and he has more than doubled his percentage of days traveled during a shutdown since the previous presidential record set by himself in 2019.
David, a great man called this poll sort of a mood ring for the country, and it does seem that voters are saying they're in a pretty bad mood.
Another, my sister hopped on the MAGA train over being anti-trans, but the ballroom and talk of a third term pushed her right back to the left. This morning, she said that she would turn Trump over to the Venezuelans and let their judiciary handle him for murdering their people. Donald Trump has completely lost his grip on reality, and I'm not even talking about his dementia-riddled pea brain.
Nothing bad can happen. It can only good happen.
Nah, folks, this cuts deeper, and it's more cruel and intentional than ever. I know you all already probably saw the Great Gatsby theme party that he threw this weekend that was completely out of touch while Americans starve. And while I understand it may not feel like it, I want to show to you that Americans are feeling the fact that Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about them. But also how that man is becoming more and more of a petrified little child, much like his alleged victims. So make sure you subscribe to Really American if you'd like more anti-Trump content in your feed, and smash that like button if you want more real Americans to see the truth about Big Mac McMahon titties. And speaking of real Americans, they are the ones that Donald Trump is not polling too well with right now.
The approval rating right now, John, sits at 37%. That is a low mark in this term for Donald Trump. His disapproval is at 63%. That's a high mark for his entire time as president, first and second term combined. I will say Democrats and independents fleeing him, of course. Republicans still with him, which is why we'll see him doing these tele-rallies tonight for the Republican candidates for governor. Take a look over the course of this year. You'll see down here, mid-February, late February, he was at 47-48% approval. That was a honeymoon period after the election. He's now been steadily going down all year long. Why? One of the reasons why, it seems, is that the American people think he's gone too far when using presidential power. 61% say so, way up from February. And deporting undocumented immigrants, 57% of Americans in this poll, John, say that he has gone too far in doing that. And in fact, he said just the opposite on 60 Minutes last night.
David, a great man called this poll sort of a mood ring for the country, and it does seem that voters are saying they're in a pretty bad mood.
They are. It's a pretty sour American electorate out there. 32% of Americans say things are going well in the country, John. 68% say they're going badly. This is clearly driven in large part by the economy, which is by far and away the most important issue for Americans. 47% say economy, cost of living, top issue. 26% say state of democracy. 10% say immigration. 7%, crime and safety. And so what does that mean in terms of Trump's policies affecting the U.S. economy? Well, 61% of Americans say they've worsened the American economy. Only 27% say Trump's policies have improved the economy, John.
That 61% is a tough number for Republicans facing election tomorrow, and certainly for the president as he tries to improve his position heading into the midterms next year.
Yeah, and I don't really have to tell many of you how poorly Trump's policies have affected our economy, especially if you're a long-term viewer of the channel, and if you're not, welcome to the resistance. But of course, you have all the footage from Trump's Great Gatsby party going absolutely viral this weekend. Call to activism posting this: breaking, it turns out Trump blew $3.4 million of taxpayer money on his trip to Mar-a-Lago for his lavish Great Gatsby Halloween party, while 700,000 Americans missed paychecks in his shutdown. Trump is hiding because he can't negotiate. Families are suffering. Disgraceful. Here's an 8-second clip before we dive into further. And again, I have more footage from that later if you do want to see it, but I know it was a big story and I'd rather get to this more important stuff that's breaking. First, much like everything Donald Trump does, this is a complete break from the norm of the American presidency. This is from NPR, a now crowdfunded news organization that Donald Trump defunded because it hurt his feelings or whatever. Presidents once avoided shutdown travel. This term, Trump has been a frequent flyer. Donald Trump has spent nearly 2 full weeks outside of Washington since the shutdown began. The shutdown is about a month long. That's half of the entire government shutdown Donald Trump has been traveling. And he has more than doubled his percentage of days traveled during a shutdown since the previous presidential record set by himself in 2019. And sure, you could say for some of that trip he was traveling in East Asia and he was working on deals to better the American economy, which I could and would give you if he actually got anything out of that travel aside from looking like a fucking idiot and getting trolled by the Chinese President Xi Jinping, roasted by India's Prime Minister, and putting his dementia on full display as the Japanese Prime Minister had to dog walk him around a ballroom. Real peace through strength type shit. Great job, MAGA. But while MAGA sits here and tries to defend every one of Trump's moves as if the diarrhea that trickles out of his Big Mac out hole is pure gold, the truth is, he couldn't give a diarrhea shit about those people or any of us. As usual, there is copyrighted audio of these elaborate Gatsby-themed Halloween partygoers, showgirls set to ABBA, Beyonce, Chapel Roan, going in and dancing for all the people there having a fun time. Wow, look at this. $3.4 million. This looks like such a great time. Trump traveled to Mar-a-Lago to go do this. So, okay, yeah, he travels to East Asia to fight for America and then travels to Mar-a-Lago to shit on poor people, I guess? And look, this is on Reddit, so some of this stuff obviously is anecdotal, but as we saw from the poll data and from the comments I'll show you here, the vibe is shifting. People are upset, and even MAGA people are upset. This person, whose handle is just here for cat, says, "The rules apply for thee, not for me." I will say, good news is, a lot of folks are waking up to it. My mom went from MAGA to a borderline socialist in the span of about 8 months over it. Someone else chimes in, nice to hear a story of it going the other way. Another, my sister hopped on the MAGA train over being anti-trans, but the ballroom and talk of a third term pushed her right back to the left. Another one, mine too. My lifelong Republican mom has sounded a lot like Bernie lately. Her shit-talking billionaires is warming my heart. This morning, she said that she would turn Trump over to the Venezuelans and let their judiciary handle him for murdering their people. My stepdad did too. He's always been conservative and Trump changed him big time. His kids are all liberals or socialists and they are thrilled. Other people just saying, hey, can your mom call my mom? But listen, I want to end this on a positive note here with this. I do think this is a positive shift that we are seeing. And look, I love to absolutely dump on MAGA morons all the time. I think it's funny, it makes me happy, it warms my heart, and I do think that those people need to be socially ostracized because of what they have wrought on hardworking, innocent people in this country. I also think that of the government writ large, because I don't think they represent the American people, the real American people. Which is why, instead of giving you these mainstream media both sides bullshit and trying to act like everyone's opinions are of equal value, even when the fucking government lies to our faces, and that's mostly Republicans, don't get me wrong, I think it's important to go into the real world, onto the real internet, and find these people, these real people who are talking about things, MAGA people who are finding out, who are recognizing finally that Donald Trump doesn't have their best interests at heart. And maybe waking up to the fact that this hyper-capitalist hellhole we've been raging towards for the past, I don't know, since Reagan got elected, could maybe do better for everyday people by adding a bit of social welfare. By maybe taxing billionaires and corporations a little bit more. By maybe providing basic necessities and rights for all of its citizens. And if that sounds good to you, congratulations, you're a socialist, I got you, your name's on a list, you're going to Alligator Alcatraz. Like, why is that the right reaction to having their basic needs met? But here's the thing. Even baby man McBowling Ball Brain is recognizing this. He is scared, as are Republicans. They know this shutdown, the things they're doing, are being witnessed in real time and are going to swing the pendulum pretty fucking far left. I am probably more far left than most of the audience that watches our channel. And I actually like that. I think it's great that we can have this conversation and maybe we disagree on certain things, but you guys can tell I mean what I fucking say. And I'm also open to criticism and love hearing your comments and having my mind swayed. But these people, the government, specifically Republicans, do not want that. They do not want social uprising. They do not want citizens to have power or control because it takes that and the money away from them. But as we've seen, that is exactly what's happening. People are rising up. People are pushing back against Trump's personal police, the ICE agents that terrorize our cities. People see this shit, and even the MAGA people say, hey, wait a minute. Why do I have a sudden twinge of longing for a croissant and a guillotine? And I'm not at all saying that someone should go French Revolution here. Not in the shling kind of way. But I do think Americans would do well to take some pointers from recent European protests that actually do things. Not that the No Kings weren't a remarkable and astounding show of force and hope and power for the citizenry, but ultimately we need to do things that affect real change. That can be voting people out of office because these people control the power, unfortunately, and are unwilling to even open the government. That can be actually disrupting the real powers that be in this country, the economy, the corporations, the Amazons, the Walmarts that are currently replacing all of our jobs with robots, axing millions of people, while Donald Trump sits there and lies that, oh, we're going to bring manufacturing back to America, or we're going to make the economy great, or whatever. The truth is, no politician really has that power to do any of that, especially not right now. Especially not while the corporate interests at B that do not want to pay you because your labor is more expensive than offloading menial labor to an AI robot, they are paying all of these politicians to not put forward protections for American workers. I know I'm ranting a lot here, and I apologize if it's all over the place. I'm doing the weave, okay? Ultimately, what I think it boils down to is actually just this meme here, where Donald Trump is pointing to this quote. If you idiots haven't figured it out yet, the only reason I wanted to be president again was to get revenge on my enemies, get rich, and keep my ass out of prison. I don't care about your puny lives. So I guess it's true. A little party never killed nobody, but it sure might soon. Thanks for watching, folks. If you found any kind of catharsis, humor, or just enjoyed the time we had together today, then be sure to drop a like, subscribe to Really American to help us get this resistance to 1 million strong and then beyond. For Really American, I'm Kenny Hesse. I will see you guys in the next one.